Hi guys. I just left the movie theater like probably a couple of hours ago as of this recording, and I'm not gonna lie to you. If you've been keeping up with me on social media, you know I've been dealing with an upper respiratory infection, so if you hear me sound kind of crazy or not myself, that's the reason why. But I'm gonna push through with this review because I feel like this is a project that deserves to have, you know, eyes on it and to be spoken of in a really real way. So this is gonna be my real unfiltered thoughts. So good, bad, and ugly. You're gonna get what you're gonna get out of me. So enjoy. So on to the video. Moving on is hard to do. And if you're of any type of age whatsoever, then you've had to do some sort of type of moving on in your life, whether it's moving on from a relationship, moving on from a job, moving on from a lost opportunity, and in this case it comes to Black Panther Wakanda Forever, moving on from the loss of a loved one. This movie had the unenviable task of trying to tell a story where how do you move on with somebody like means that much, not just to you personally, but to an entire nation? And how do you move in their absence, knowing what it means, not just for you, but for potential enemies as well? Yeah, this was a movie. And if you're here, it's your first time here, welcome in. I'm JV versus the world here, and we have the last movie of Marvel Stage 4 in the MCU, and a movie that means a lot to a lot of people, including myself. This is Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever. Here we go. First things first, go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. If it's your first time in, why not? You're already here, help a brother out. You know, T'Challa's my cousin, by the way. At least it says so on Instagram. Also, don't forget to turn on the bell for notifications so you don't miss a video. And if you're first time here, I'm gonna show you how my reviews go. I'm gonna break down the film based on 4 criteria: the cast, the characters, the story, and my own personal enjoyment. And overall, I'm gonna give you whether or not I enjoyed it or not, whether it's a thumbs up or a thumbs down on all those things. So let's go. First things up is the cast. That's the easy one for me. Gonna get a thumbs up from me. Giving a Marvel project a thumbs up is like the easiest thing I'll ever do, because the casting in Marvel is almost nearly spot on, especially since, you know, the early days of like them trying to figure it out and Ed Norton Hulk or whatever. They don't really miss on the casting. The characters, the people they get to cast to act these characters out are really just right there on the nose. I don't have anything to say about the acting in this movie. I thought everybody did their part, all things considered. Huge shout out to Angela Bassett, because she did a lot of the emotional heavy lifting for this film, and she did an inspired performance. Letitia Wright had to do her job, especially as, you know, filling in for Chadwick as the Black Panther and as the leader in Waiting to a Nation. And man, like everybody did they were supposed to do in this movie. Like, I don't think I'll ever find myself in a position where I'll give a thumbs down to a Marvel cast, because they do what they're supposed to do every time. Like, you can name off somebody and to me right now, riff off a name. Danae Guerrero did their job. Dominique Thorne did her job. Special job. Ooh, Dominique Thorne did her thing as Riri Williams. I'm super looking forward to see what they do with her in the future. But yeah, I can't see myself giving a thumbs down to a Marvel project. Sorry. Although I will say that there is one thing I probably would give or like tentative give a thumbs down to, but that's more of a characters thing, and I'm gonna get to that in just a second. Okay, so when it comes down to the characters of Black Panther Wakanda Forever, I'm going to give them a thumbs up, but it's a tentative thumbs up, and I'm going to get into the reasons why. Going into this movie, I was incredibly worried that this cast of characters, these characters rather, wouldn't be able to handle the heavy lifting that it would take to kind of fill the void of Chadwick's, or rather T'Challa's absence. My issue with the first Black Panther film was I felt like T'Challa himself didn't really have that much of his own agency, that everything that he did or he put into action was because of somebody else or because of the cast around him. And I felt like even though that was an issue, it worked itself out because everybody kind of fed into each other. Like they fed into their leader, and their leader gave back to them in a way that he was supposed to. All good there. And now this cast kind of feels like, for lack of a better term, like a bunch of side dishes without a main course. But it also kind of works out in a way because it kind of added to the level of danger that they faced because he isn't there. And a lot of the things that these characters are going through in this movie, especially when it comes to grief and the reaction to grief and the actions they take in terms of the plot, is strictly because T'Challa is no longer there. That protective blanket, that warning against their enemies, their protector, like he's their king, he's no longer there, and everybody just kind of processing and grieving in their own ways. And you get to see a lot of how people are handling that, whether it's healthy or unhealthy, angry, not angry, present, not present, and they do a really good job with that, these characters do. And it all roads lead back to T'Challa when it comes to the Wakandas emotionally, so you kind of get a lot of that feedback, and you got to see a lot of their processes and a lot of how they get from point A to point B with how they're feeling. And it's really deep and it's really heavy in a lot of places. And this is not a spoiler review, so you don't have to worry about me going into detail, but yeah, they really do a lot there when it comes to these characters. Yeah, you really feel for them at certain points, especially the ones that you know you should feel for, because even in the grief, people say and do things in grief, and whether it's right or wrong, how you feel is how you feel, and you're always entitled to how you feel how you want to, and they do those things a lot in this film, and it really like gets you here when it lands, and it will. Yeah, these characters, yeah. On the other side of this, you have Namor and the people of Talokan, which is MCU talk for Atlantis. But you get to know his character. You get to understand where he comes from, his upbringing, his backstory. You get to see a lot of his physicality. You get to know him. And if you're familiar with the comics of who Namor is, then you know Namor's a dick. Like, Namor is straight up an asshole. And he's that one asshole friend that you just kind of have to deal with sometimes because you kind of need him around for whatever. But I feel like this is probably the most likable I've ever seen Namor in almost any project, because he's, like I say, he's a dick most of the time, but here he's understandable, he's relatable, and even though he is extreme at times, you understand his why. And we all know the MCU has a villain problem when it comes to how people deal with these things, so to kind of see how they handled it here with him and how they kind of told his point of view in the midst of all that's going on with the Wakandans, whatever, I feel like they did a good job of painting and portraying his character. And yeah, I really liked him in this movie as well. So yeah, overall, all the characters, they get a thumbs up for me. Now, when it comes to the story itself, this movie, as I've said a couple times, has a lot of heavy lifting to do, because T'Challa's not there, and everybody knows it, everybody feels it. Some people are trying to take advantage of it. Some people are stationary because of it, and you just kind of see how all that is, his decision making and the decision making from the first movie, how all that has kind of played out to the present. And they did about as good a job as you could have asked, given what it is. Now, this isn't like a story that's gonna blow your socks off, and it's not gonna be the best movie you've ever seen in your life. It's not going to I don't even know how else to say it. But I will say this. This movie does, with given everything that is with this movie, given everything with the production, given everything what it is, this movie did exactly what it needed to do with its story. Like, it juggles grief. It covers boundaries. It covers protecting what's yours. It covers looking to the future, like, in a way that it is about as good as anything as you could have asked for. Like, I can complain and I can nitpick about some things, and I will on a spoiler cast, or I will like pick this thing apart. But tonight's not that night. Today's not that day. And yeah, the story, gets a thumbs up. It did what it was supposed to do. And given how this is, given everything, that's about as good as you can ask. And I think that's the last time I'm going to say that, because I know I'm repeating myself. In terms of personal enjoyment, I enjoyed this movie. I know there's some people who have done their other reviews, and they said they felt like the movie kind of milled around at parts, that the plot was kind of just or whatever. I didn't feel that way. I felt like this movie it told the narrative it was supposed to tell, while trying to do the things that were necessary for this, as a tribute, as a stepping off point, as closure to not just Chadwick Boseman, but to Phase 4 of the MCU. It did what it was supposed to do. I don't have any super major complaints about it. Yeah. This review is kind of tough, because, if you follow this channel, and if you followed me long enough, then you know that, I've talked about Chadwick and his death and what it meant to me personally, like, ad nauseum. This had a lot to do, like, and for a phase in Marvel that I felt was all over the place, that was wildly unfocused, that started off with the death of Tony Stark and to end covering the death of T'Challa. Like, this kind of this felt like the most focused movie of the MCU since Shang-Chi, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And there's not a lot in Marvel that has been going on these days that I could be like, ooh, this is really fun, I really enjoyed this, ooh, I really want to tune in and see this, ooh, there's not a lot of that for me these days with Marvel. Endgame was a peak that we've fallen from as an audience, and this movie's gonna make money despite itself, but that's not the important thing, because Marvel is just a machine at this point. But this movie did what it was supposed to do. As far as the future is concerned, they need to do more, but that's another conversation for another time. Chadwick was clearly a must here in this movie. T'Challa himself, I felt like, was missed in this movie, and while I do think they need to recast T'Challa at some point, today is not that day. It shouldn't be anytime soon. This cast, those writers, those people that knew him, this was their opportunity to do for him, to deliver something to him, you know what I'm saying, and to us regarding that. And when it comes to that, that's all this was, and you can't get mad at that. You really can't, unless you ain't got a heart, and that's that. But yeah, thumbs up across the board for me on everything. Go see this movie. If you're a fan of the MCU, if you're a fan of Black Panther, you have no reason to not go see this movie, because they're going to make another one eventually, and you want to be informed, you want to be in the know, and you want to see how they pick up and move on. If I want to say another nitpicky thing that I might think, this is black girl magic, this movie. Like, black women rock all over this movie, and good for them. I loved seeing it. If you know JB loves black women, and I love seeing these black women do their thing in this movie. I know the incels may get mad at it. Whatever, dude. Get over it. But the black women really rocked in this movie, and I thought that's another thing that was pretty dope in this movie. This movie did a lot of good things, and I know I'm just kind of zeroed in on the grief aspect of it, but this movie really did do a lot of good things. It did do some bad things too. I'll go into no spoiler cast. I'll probably do that next week. And yeah, this movie just kind of ticked boxes and just kept it moving, and I appreciate it. I appreciate it for that. If you want to give me like a number rating on it, I'd probably give it like a 7.5 out of 10. I think that's a good number for it. I'm not sure if I liked it enough to give it an 8 outright. I know I can kind of be high on things at first and then kind of come down, so I'm going to give it 7.5. I think 7.5 is a good point for it to be at for right now. I would definitely see it again, and maybe I'll change my mind about it then, but until then, 7.5, thumbs up across the board from me. And I think that'll conclude this review. But as always, my opinion is just my own. I want to know what you think. So if you've seen Black Panther Wakanda Forever, go down in the thingamabout down below. Let me know what you think. Comment. Hit me up on Twitter. All my links are down there in the thingamabob. Alright. I'm going to take some medicine now because I'm getting hoarse. Anyways, you guys take care of yourselves and each other. Stay tuned for the next video. There's going to be more coming. Look forward to that spoiler cast. I'm putting together a crew now of worthy and trustworthy individuals of who I can use for this. Either way, look forward to that in other videos coming soon. Until then, JB out.